You'll notice I'm wearing this glove. But I mean, just so you guys don't stay curious for the next 60 minutes, is because what's it called? I put my eczema cream on, and then I put the glove over it just so it doesn't like get everywhere. Okay, so if you hear like this weird like plastic bag noise, I apologize. Inshallah. If it gets too loud, just let me know. I can take it off. It's not going to be too bad, inshallah. But just a heads up. Okay, so we got through pretty much almost basically did all of Surat al-A'la last Friday, just a couple of days ago. So just for review, inshallah, we did all the way from we spent last Monday talking about just that first ayah, and then from Friday we did from ayah number 2. We did reach the end. There was some couple of notes at the end of the surah that I didn't get to mention because the time was up, so I'll just mention that now, inshallah. So, سبح اسم ربك الأعلى. Inshallah, we don't need to go through that one again. الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى. So Allah Ta'ala, He described Himself. He says that He created these things, He fashioned them, and He decreed for them, and He guided them. So Allah Ta'ala, He uses 4 different af'al, 4 different verbs in which are all the sifat of Rabbika. And then Allah Ta'ala says, وَالَّذِي أَخْرَجَ الْمَرْعَى فَجَعَلَهُ غُثَاءً أَحْوَى. And then Allah Ta'ala says that He is the one who took out the pasture, the vegetation, and then He made it into غُثَاءً أَحْوَى. We said has a couple of different opinions. The first being that Allah Ta'ala allowed it to, first He أخرج المرعى, He brought this vegetation out so that people could benefit from it, so that the animals could benefit from it. Then He turned it into غثاء أحوى, basically rotten and completely destroyed. It became completely black, and it's not beneficial anymore. The other opinion is that غثاء أحوى is that this vegetation has actually matured, and it's even more nutritious, it's even more beneficial. For the first opinion, which is the majority, that it's become rotten, it's become non-beneficial, it's the analogy of how Allah Ta'ala brings things to life, and then He also causes them death as well. Yuhyi wa yumit. And then the second opinion is, if we say that it's simply Allah Ta'ala, He brought the mar'a and then He matured it and He allowed it to be even more nutritious and so on and so forth, then that's the analogy for what's coming next. سَنُقْرِئُكَ فَلَا تَنْسَى. That this is the analogy for now Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He's been granted a certain set of ayat and surahs for revelation, and it's going to mature even more, and He's going to increase it in its hidayah and all these different things. So سَنُقْرِئُكَ فَلَا تَنْسَى إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ. Then Allah Ta'ala says, سَنُقْرِئُكَ from Bab If'al, not قَرَأَ يَقْرَأُ, but أَقْرَأَ يُقْرِئُ, that we will make you read, فَلَا تَنْسَى, and you will not forget. Meaning, so this is taking away the anxiety that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam had when he was receiving the Quran, as we mentioned a few different ayahs. لا تحرك به لسانك لتعجل به, where Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he was receiving the Quran from Jibreel alayhi salam, he would get like very nervous and he would try repeating really quickly because of his fear of not being able to memorize it and not being able to convey it to the masses. So Allah Ta'ala takes away this anxiety from him, and He says إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ. And then we discussed a little bit about naskh, in which we said, well, first I referred you guys to the discussions found in Mufti Taqi's work, An Approach to the Quranic Sciences. I believe that's what it's called. Been translated to English. I should probably send the PDF onto the group, inshallah. Hopefully I'll remember to do that. If I don't, just remind me, please, one of you guys. As well as we have At-Tibyan by Sheikh Sabuni, same author of Safatul Tafasir. About how naskh is, the common objection that's made against naskh is that it's the shari', whether it's Allah Ta'ala or to some people it's how Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam he made up this entire religion. They'll claim that whoever that individual is, that they messed up and they realized their mistake later on. So naskh is just covering up a fault. So that's the claim. Whereas we realize that, of course, if you just give it a little bit of thought, that that's definitely not the case. Ahwal change over time, so therefore the need and the address of that need will change over time as well. Just like how if a person goes to a doctor and they have a severe injury, then the doctor will give them one medication, and then once that pain goes away after a couple of days or weeks, they'll get prescribed a new medication. But the second medication is not something that you would use in the beginning, because perhaps they got a stronger painkiller or something in the beginning. So there's a lot of analogies examples that we can give in our daily lives, that different situations require different addresses. So إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ or this could also be referring to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, perhaps the very few times that he may have accidentally forgotten an ayah while he was reciting, while he was leading salah or something like that, and the Sahaba would ask him, has this ayah been abrogated? Then he would say that, no, I simply forgot it. إِنَّهُ يَعْلَمُ الْجَهْرَ وَمَا يَخْفَى. Allah Ta'ala knows that which is done in public and that which is kept secret. وَنُيَسِّرُكَ لِلْيُسْرَى فَذَكِّرْ. Okay, وَنُيَسِّرُكَ لِلْيُسْرَى, we will make it easy. We will make that which is easy for you. We will make that which is easy for you. Meaning the Sharia or his life and his struggles. فَذَكِّرْ إِن نَفَعَتِ الذِّكْرَى. So remind. And then we said the literal translation would be that this is in shartiyah, in for like a conditional statement, if the dhikra is beneficial. So remind if the reminder is beneficial. And we said that regarding the in, this is more for emphasis. It's not like it's not an actual conditional statement. It's not saying that, oh Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you could judge who you feel who you deem is worthy to be reminded. Yani it's saying that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, for sure this dhikra will have its benefit, so go ahead and keep reminding. Did that make sense? The difference? Okay. And then we also talked about ilmun nabar. This is something that Maul Yusuf brought up when we were studying with him, that we don't want to say inna fa'ati dhikra. We want to keep the fi'l together, in, and then do the ghunna, in nafa'ati dhikra. Nafa'a is the verb, so you don't want to split it up between into two different words. So this is a very common mistake that happened in terms of like tajweed and qira'ah. Similarly, for the whole in ayah number 5, faja'alahu, people end up saying like Jim with a sukoon and do the qalqala, where it sounds like you're doing the fatha almost, but really you're just doing a qalqala. It's like a half fatha. We say faja'alahu. So that's two different mistakes, where you're not saying the haraka on the jim properly, as well as you're splitting up the verb, which is ja'ala. So you want to say faja'alahu. That makes sense as well? Great. Okay. So in nafa'at dhikra, sayadhakkaru man yakhsha. Surely the one who the one who has fear, will most definitely benefit from the reminder. وَيَتَجَنَّبُهَا الْأَشْقَى. Whereas the most wretched, the one who has no good company, the one who wasn't given any good advice, يتجنبها, he's going to put it to the side, he's going to turn away from it. أعرض عنها. الذي يصل النار الكبرى. الأشقى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصل النار الكبرى. This ashqa is being described as the one who shall enter into the huge, ginormous fire. ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا. So the ishkal is that how is it possible for someone he shall not experience death, nor shall he have life. So the objection would be that, well, you have to have one or the other. So how would we explain this ayah? Of course, this is a rhetorical device saying that he's not going to have any life that's worth living, nor will he be granted a complete death while he's, as I think we covered in Surah Inshiqaq, يَدْعُو ثُبُورًا كَثِيرًا. That Allah Ta'ala, he tells this person that, you're asking for death. Go ahead, keep asking. You better, if you want to, to make it worth it, at least you can ask a whole bunch of times. Don't just ask once. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى وَذَكَرَ اسْمَ رَبِّهِ فَصَلَّى. And then Allah Ta'ala says that, so on the flip side, after discussing this person who is going to be tormented in the hellfire, he says, surely the one who has purified himself is successful. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى, the one who has purified himself, أَفْلَحَ, he is successful. وَذَكَرَ اسْمَ رَبِّهِ فَصَلَّى. It's just coming to my mind now, but عطف يقتضي المغايرة. Are you guys familiar with that? I don't know, like a little rule? No? العطف يقتضي, is it الواو يقتضي المغايرة? Anyways, so when you say, we went over it before too, actually, it came up. I just didn't share the Arabic with you. Where was it? Like when we say إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, right? Meaning that Allah Ta'ala, He's specifying that it's not just the iman that's going to get a person into Jannah, it's وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, it's their good deeds as well. So now for there's ishkals, people, especially modernists, this is just random thoughts coming to my head, I'm sorry, so I'll try to make it as clear as possible. that they'll say that there's no need for a'mal, there's no need for doing good deeds, there's no need for me to pray salah if the purpose is for me to just remember God, if the purpose is for me to just remember Allah Ta'ala, or at the most, the only thing that salah, the 5 daily salahs are for me is that it's like a yoga exercise, like just a physical movement for me. Rather, I think just being a good person is enough. Right, I'm sure. Okay, that's probably something that we're all familiar with. Being a good person is enough, correct? What do we see here? قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى. Is that it? No. وَذَكَرَ اسْمَ رَبِّهِ فَصَلَّى. These are also conditions if you want to be a part of this aflah. If you only have one, if you're only part of man tazakka, does that mean you've fulfilled this condition of aflaha man tazakka wa dhakara asma rabbih fasalla? Does that make sense? Following? Yeah, okay. So it's all of it. It's a group package. You can't just take one thing and then just be like, I'm gonna stick to this and leave everything else. Okay. وَذَكَرَ اسْمَ رَبِّهِ فَصَلَّى. I don't think we talked about the whole fiqhi thing part of this, but I'll just mention it. Just if you get it, you get it. If you don't, it's not a big deal. وَذَكَرَ اسْمَ رَبِّهِ فَصَلَّى. This is where the Hanafiya, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Muhammad, I believe specifically, say that this ayah proves that the takbirat al-tahrima is a shart and not a rukun of the salah. That it says وَذَكَرَ اسْمَ رَبِّهِ فَصَلَّى. So he remembers the name of his Lord first, then he begins the prayer, meaning that this remembrance of the name of your Lord, which is the takbir al-tahrima, it's not actually a part of the salah, therefore it's a shart and it's not a rukun of the salah. That makes sense. Or maybe I'm mixing up who maybe it's like Imam Abu Hanifa only and then versus Sahibain or whatever. But you could maybe check the Quduri or something for that. بَلْ تُؤْثِرُونَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. Rather you, not these. That's an incorrect translation. Why? Because تُؤْثِرُونَ, it's hadir, sigha, right? بَلْ تُؤْثِرُونَ. But rather you all prefer the worldly life. So we said that one of the benefits of changing from the hadir sigha to the second person is because previously it was what? سيذكر من يخشى ويتا ياو. I mean the ya for the غائب صيغة, the third person. الأشقى الذي يصلى, ya again for the third person. لا يموت ولا يحيا, third person. All these are third person, and then immediately the iltifat. So this is called iltifat, where the person will change, where it'll be from third person to first person, second, whatever combination you want. So over here we see I went from third to second. Why? Because it's hitting the idea home that you might think that you're reading these ayat, you're listening to these ayat, maybe it's talking about someone else. بل تؤثرون. Allah Ta'ala are directly addressing us now. It's the hadir sigha, the second person. Bel, you prefer the worldly life. وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. And the hereafter is, of course, it is better and it is everlasting. And then there was a quote from Ibn Mas'ud رضي الله تعالى عنه, that he says قرأ ابن مسعود هذه الآية فقال لأصحابه. Ibn Mas'ud, he read these verses and he said to his companions, أتدرون لما آثرنا الحياة الدنيا على الآخرة. Do you recognize, do you really know why we choose the worldly life over the hereafter? قالوا لا. They said no. قال لأن الدنيا أحضرت وعجلت لنا بطعامها وشرابها ونسائها ولذاتها وبهجتها. Excuse me. He says that the reason is because that this world it's already brought forward everything. It's brought forward all of its pleasures, all of its drinks, all of its the women, the pleasures and the beauties of it. وإن الآخرة غيبت وزبيت عنا فأحببنا العاجل وتركنا الآجل. Whereas the hereafter, it's been hidden from us, and it's been hidden from us, and we can't see it. We don't get the rewards right away. فأحببنا العاجل وتركنا الآجل. And we have chosen to take as our beloved that which is right in front of us, and we have left, and we don't even think about, we don't give it a second thought, that which is coming in the future. كلا بل تحبون العاجلة, as Allah Ta'ala says. كلا بل تحبون العاجلة. The ayn, so I always get confused with this still. Ajil is some like right in front of you, immediate, present. Ajil is future. So كلا بل تحبون العاجلة. Allah Ta'ala is saying that man is like, it's our innate psychology is that we just love things right away. Even in like our worldly life, we feel like, yeah, I could do like a quick course, 6-month course, as opposed to getting like a 4-year degree, or like maybe get like although I'll make like 75% of the money as I would with the degree, I'd rather take that over Or like if a person says, "I'll give you $50 right now," or give me like another month and a half, and I'll get you 100 full price. You'll take the 50. Usually that's what ends up happening. إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. So this is what we left off with, that I just wanted to give a little bit more clarification on. That Mufti Shafi, he talks about what exactly is the contents of the صحف إبراهيم وموسى. So إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى. Indeed, this entire message. لفي الصحف الأولى has been in the earlier scriptures, in the scriptures of Ibrahim alayhi salam and Musa alayhi salam. Two things that I think I mentioned, maybe I didn't. So I guess this is where like the new stuff starts. Is that the first is that this is a proof that the message of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the same as the other Anbiya. Tawheed and preparation for Qiyamah, belief in Allah Ta'ala and His oneness and no idolatry, no polytheism, so on and so forth. Same thing as all the other Anbiya. The reason Ibrahim alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam are specifically mentioned here is because these are primarily the two groups of people in Makkah. There were two groups of, they were either the polytheists or they were the Ahlul Kitab. They're either they would be like, okay, it was the Arabs and it was the Ahlul Kitab. Maybe I'm mixing up the. Basically, it was like if you were part of the Ahlul Kitab, you're gonna respect Musa alayhi salam. Why? Because even like the people, the Christians, they respected the Old Testament, and that was the book of Musa alayhi salam. So and that takes care of that. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was a father of the. He respected by by all the Abrahamic faiths. They respect him, as well as there were people. The Arabs were some of them were the descendants of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So that's specifically why those two prophets are mentioned. As to what exactly is the contents of the Suhuf Ibrahim wa Musa, I'll just try to quickly skim through what Mufti Shafi says. I read this like a couple of days ago, so hopefully I could figure out what exactly I wanted to mention. But it says, إِنَّ هَذَا لَفِي الصُّحُفِ الْأُولَى صُحُفِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَمُوسَى. In other words, either all the themes of this surah or its last theme, that the hereafter is much better and much more durable than this life, was written in the earlier divine scriptures. It is further explicated that this theme was written in the scriptures of Musa alayhi salam and Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. Probably it refers to other scriptures that were given to Musa alayhi salam before the Torah. It is also possible that it refers to the Torah itself. The themes of the scripts of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Juri transmits a narration from Sayyidina Abu Dhar al-Ghifari radiyallahu ta'ala an, that he inquired from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam as to the contents of the Suhufi Ibrahim. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that they contained educating parables. What's the Arabic word for, he says? They have like ibar, like al-ibra. I'm sure maybe you guys have heard that word in first year, like wise advices, like like one-liners that really like just hit home, like a hikam. Like are you guys familiar with the hikam of Ata'illah al-Askandari? I think Mufti Manhaj, he gives a dars on this, like I don't know if it's ongoing or if it was just during like Ramadan or something, but yeah, he gave it after Fajr in the first 20 days of Ramadan. The Hikam of Ata'illah al-Askandari. I think it's been translated into English. It's available in the DS bookstore. The title is called Aphorisms. The Aphorisms of Ibn Ata'illah al-Askandari. Aphorism. A phrase, statement of a truth or opinion, an adage. Okay, that doesn't help at all. Basically, just like little wise advices. Okay, like one-liners that really just hit home, and they just cover like so many deep. They're like very jami' mani and all these things. So he says that this is pretty much what the Suhuf of Ibrahim alayhi salam contained. Okay, a story. Okay. So one example he mentions is that there's a parable that addresses the general public as a wise person should divide his time into three parts. One part should be reserved for the worship of his Lord and supplication to him. The second part should be reserved for a self-assessment of his good deeds and reflection on the omnipotence and creation of Allah Ta'ala. The third part should be allocated for acquisition of livelihood and fulfilling the natural needs. It further imparts that a wise person should keep himself abreast of the circumstances of his time and keep himself busy in performing his intended work. He should take care of his tongue. He who takes speech as one of his works, his speech will be confined only to the things of real need. And then themes of the scripts of Musa alayhi salam. So then the same Sahabi, Sayyidina Abu Dhar al-Ghifari radiallahu ta'ala, he asked Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam regarding the contents of Musa alayhi salam's suhuf. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam replied that they contained lessons of wisdom. Okay, let me just clarify then. So I guess Musa alayhi salam's suhuf contained more like wisdoms, whereas after reading that, the wise person thing, more like parables or like little, I don't want to call it short stories, but like more example type things that you could take benefit from. So he said that in Musa alayhi salam's kitab, it was written that in the Suhuf, I'm surprised at the person who believes that he will certainly die, yet he still lives happily. I'm surprised at the person who believes in divine destiny, and yet he is despondent and aggrieved. I'm surprised at the person who experiences the beauties of life and the rise and fall of nations, and yet he is content with the world. I'm surprised at the person who believes in the reckoning of the hereafter, and yet he abandons good deeds. So Sayyidina Abu Dhar al-Ghifari, he asked Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam whether anything from these scriptures was revealed to him, to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam himself. And he replied in the affirmative, and when he said what part of the Quran is similar to the Suhuf of Ibrahim alayhi salam and Musa alayhi salam, he then said that it is verses 14 to 19 of Surat al-A'la. 14 to 19. أفلح من تزكى until the end. أفلح من تزكى. Okay, so that is the end of Surat al-A'la. And we could begin Surat al-Ghashiyah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Any questions regarding Surah A'la? No? Okay. Anyone?
Could you explain the one thing?
Wow.
Could you explain the theme of when you give the example?
Okay. Al-'atfu yaqtadi al-mughayara. So I don't want to use that example of إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ because you get into the whole aqidah discussion. But if you say, if you use a harf atf between two things, that shows necessarily that those two things are not the same thing. Like, okay, so if you it's gonna seem silly, but if you say that ja'a zaydun wa amrun, that means that wa will show that Amr is not another nickname for Zayd. It specifically shows that it is two different individuals. So قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى. So the reason I had brought that principle up was because that simply saying that tazkiyah is enough is not true. Doing tazkiyah of your own self and just being a nice good person and being kind and to other people, it's not true, and it's not enough to be part of قد أفلح, because قد أفلح is connected to both things. So both things would be necessary for you to be considered from the muflihin. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هل أتاك حديث الغاشية? Okay, so one sec, sorry. Okay, so the previous surah, as we just finished off, it talks about the al-ashqa first. It talks about the state of the disbelievers and what happens to them and so on and so forth. Then it talks about the state of the قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى, the muflihin. Same. So now it's going to be the same thing in Surah al-Ghashiyah, where we talk about the state of the disbelievers, and then after that it's going to be followed up with the flip side, it's the pleasures of Jannah and how the believers will be living. So now, as we see, we're starting off with the description of the al-ashqa, wujuhun yawma idhin khashi'a 'amilatun nasiba tasla naran hamiyah. Okay, and then so on and so forth. Additionally, we saw that there was بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا. It's saying that you, O kuffar, you all, second person, of course, like we said, you all prefer the worldly life. Now, what do we see here? هل أتاك حديث الغاشية. It's not talking about the the addressee is not the kuffar anymore. Rather, it's Allah Ta'ala has turned away from them and He's now speaking directly to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This shows that He is upset with them, that He doesn't even want to like speak to them anymore. It's like, there's a child who's being like um, not behaving. You look at the mother and you start talking about how much he's misbehaving. The child is gonna take some offense. He's gonna get upset. It shows the upset of that third party, because he doesn't even deem it worthy, or he doesn't even deem it appropriate to talk to that child anymore to try to correct him. Rather, he just went straight to the a different person. Okay, hadith al-Ghashiyah. What else was I gonna say? One more thing. Oh, I think it was the Bayni of the Surah. So just quickly before we actually start the tarjuma and stuff. So he says تفسير سورة الغاشية بين يدي السورة سورة الغاشية مكية وقد تناولت موضوعين أساسيين هما. So he says Surah al-Ghashiyah is a Makki surah and it comprises of two main discussions, and they are القيامة وأهوالها وما يلقاه الكافر فيها من العناء والبلاء وما يلقاه المؤمن فيها من السعادة والهناء. That is, first of all, it talks about Qiyamah, as we're going to see from ayah number 1 until, or it's just the first couple of ayahs, and it talks about the conditions and the qualities and the terrors on that day and what's going to happen to a kafir and what type of difficulty he's going to go through. And then it also talks about what the mu'min, the believer, will get from in how much joy and good fortune he'll have. Second thing that it talks about is al-adillatu wal-barahin ala wahdaniyati rabbil alamin wa qudratihi al-bahira fi khalq al-ibli al-ajibati was-sama' al-badi'a wal-jibal al-murtafi'a wal-ard al-mumtaddah al-wasi'a wa kulluha. Okay, so then it talks about the different proofs and evidences for the oneness of Allah Ta'ala and His amazing ability of being able to create the camel and the sky and the mountain and the earth. وكلها شواهد على وحدانية الله وجلال سلطانه. And then all of these things are a evidence and a proof for the oneness of Allah Ta'ala and His amazing grandeur and His majesty. وختمت السورة الكريمة بالتذكير برجوع الناس جميعا إلى الله سبحانه للحساب والجزاء. Then the surah ends off with a reminder that all of mankind shall return back to Allah Ta'ala for resurrection and for judging. Okay. هل أتاك حديث الغاشية? We have هل أتاك حديث الغاشية? The scaf, as we said, is referring to the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Has the news, has the account of the al-Ghashiyah come to you, O Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam? Al-Ghashiyah. Ghashiyah yaghsha means to completely envelop something to completely take over. I think this is also the word that's used for, when somebody gets like they faint, they get unconscious, or even I believe when they get like drunk or something too. It's this that feeling, or whether it's like alcohol or whether it's like someone just goes unconscious, it completely envelops their mind. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى, as we've discussed that Surah Naba, I think, that when the night completely takes over and it completely envelops and surrounds the sky. So هل أتاك حديث الغاشية? So al-Ghashiyah is a name that's being used for al-Qiyamah. So I think he gives a few ayahs here. Where is it at? No, he does Jalalain maybe. Yes, he says هل أتاك، هل بمعنى قد أتاك حديث الغاشية أي القيامة لأنها تغشى الخلائق بأهوالها, because it will completely envelop all of creation due to with its terrors and its calamities. بأهوالها, and Hasha is mentioned من قوله يوم يغشاهم العذاب, when the punishment shall completely, on that day when the punishment will completely take over them. وقيل النار من قوله, and it is also said, or a weaker opinion is that it is also referring to the fire. من قوله وَتَغْشَى وُجُوهُهُمُ النَّارُ, and Surah Ibrahim, I believe, that the hellfire shall completely take over them. So aqil, meaning that Sighat al-Tamrid is not really a strong opinion. However, we could just say this is a name of the Day of Judgment, and it makes sense because we discussed before in multiple different surahs that Allah Ta'ala talks about how the sky is going to completely erupt. It's going to break. It's going to be skinned. The doors are going to be opened up in the sky. So it's going to that could possibly be referring to what the al-Ghashiyah is. Now, hal attack. So this comes up a few times as we see this, like this phrasing, this construction of why this particular wording. We saw in Surah Al-Nazi'at, hal ataka hadith Musa. I believe that also comes in Surah Taha as well. Hal ataka hadith al-Dayfi Ibrahim al-Mukramin in Surah Al-Dhariyat. And what we have, hal ataka hadith al-Junud in Surah Buruj. So why Okay, first, why ata and not why not ja'a? We usually translate those the same. He came or to come, right? So why is ja'a not used here? Why is it always ata? So ata is usually used for smaller things, whereas ja'a is used for the bigger things. And we see فَإِذَا جَاءَتِ الطَّامَّةُ الْكُبْرَى, when the actual event takes place of the الطَّامَّةُ الْكُبْرَى. فإذا جاءت الصاخة, when the actual event of الصاخة takes place. Whereas this is talking about هل أتاك حديث الغاشية. It's not talking about هل أتاك الغاشية. When the غاشية comes, it's talking about have you been informed of the event of the future called al-Ghashiyah coming. So it's not actually talking about it taking place right then and there. It's talking about the news of that matter. Make sense? Two different things. The event. So when the event comes, the word ja'a is used, as we see in Surah Nazi'at, فإذا جاءت الطامة الكبرى, and عبسة فإذا جاءت الصاخة. Sorry. Okay, that's why ata naja. So why is it even a question? So it could why not just say like you said actually in Tafsir Jalalain, he says hal بمعنى قد أتاك حديث الغاشية. So what's the point of using the word hal? So he said that could be two things. That first, it's criticism. So as we said, the we're not even addressing those in Allah Ta'ala is not even addressing those individuals who are actually at fault. Of course, hal ataka ya Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The kaf referring to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That he's the direct mukhatab. He is the addressee. So like we said, I think was a previous surah somewhere, that Allah Ta'ala has turned his attention away from them to show his anger and how upset he is. The second is that this affirms that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam did his job. It's like, for example, if you go to like a coach or like a teacher, the coach has his team, and then maybe someone comes up to the coach and he's like, "Didn't you went over the playbook with them, right? You're not actually like blaming the coach for anything, because the coach did his job, and you're also trying to that, like we said, the first thing, which is that you're turning your attention away from the kids or the players or whatever, because they're the ones who are at blame. We're not even going to focus on them right now. That's how upset and angry we are." So that's two things. Ataka and tu'thiruna, I already mentioned the whole it went from addressing them as a whole, and now Allah Ta'ala is upset and he turns away from them. G. Hazrat.
Nawasab, you were. Oh, sorry. You're saying the like had it's in and of itself, it's a form of emphasis, because it's like Allah's turning his attention away from the people at fault, and then to Nabi Sallallahu
No, not hal. The ataka. It came to you. So the ka is the singular, right?
Okay.
So that's where it's short. That's where the iltifat happened, where it went from the ka, or it went from the tu'thiruna in just a couple of ayahs ago in the previous surah. It's addressing all of them, tu'thiruna, the jama', right? And then now it's just referring to ataka, not atakum. Okay.
And then you said something specifically about hal. I didn't catch.
Hal bima'na. I was saying that why is it even a question? Why not just say قَدْ أَتَاكَ حَدِيثُ الْغَاشِيَةِ or أَتَاكَ حَدِيثُ الْغَاشِيَةِ? Why phrase it as a question in the first place? So the first thing is that it's like when, like we said in when like a parent might go up to like the coach. He's like, didn't you went over the playbook with the kids, right? With the players. So then it does two things. You're turning the attention away from the kids, because they're the ones that messed up. They're the ones that you're upset with. The second thing is that it's actually affirming that the coach did his job. That like you did all the work, and they're still like, even on top of you doing like your job to perfection to the T, they still messed up. Like it's the blame is completely on them. It's not even on the coach in the slightest. So those are the two things. Okay, ataka make sense? Okay, hadith. Hadith is used for new events, new occurrences. Why did I write this? It's used for new events, new occurrences. Oh, okay. So it's just like a reminder saying that why we've been talking about Qiyamah for like the last half bar. Why use the word hadith? It's because that's okay. This is a whole other way you've never even looked at it. It's a whole other. We're gonna do bayan of. We're gonna talk. We're gonna explain the horrors on that day in a way that you've never even heard about it. You never even thought of. So it's like it's a new thing that we're talking about almost. Does that make sense? Okay. Hadith Ghashiyah in covers. So, like we said, it could be the sky or Biltusi. Okay. Ooh. Okay, so Ghashiyah, like we said, it could refer to how the sky is going to get completely enveloped with the horrors of the Day of Judgment, where all the terrors of the Day of Judgment happening when the sky is split and skinned and so on and so forth, as we've discussed in the previous surahs. Additionally, it could also be referring to this is how it would be connected to the last surah. Is that بَلْ تُؤْثِرُونَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. You're so engrossed in your worldly life. You're worried about your 8 to 5. You're worried about getting home and having a nice dinner. You're worried about your family. You're worried about just watching the next football game or I think some sports got to have like the playoffs on right now. Maybe the NFL or something. I don't know. I don't really keep up anymore. Unfortunately, but من حسن الإسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعني إن شاء الله. You'll be following that. um, yeah, I mean, but like that's everyone's just worried about that. Like it's on the back of it. Like unfortunately, it's crazy, man. And no one like we don't have this qiyamah coming up and just creeping up like any second like at the front of our minds, always in our subconscious, if it's even there. So what could possibly have the what I'm getting to is that هل أتاك حديث الغاشية is referring to how no matter what, no matter how engrossed you are, the ghashiyah is going to come and it's going to completely envelop your infatuation with the world that you're not even going to care about the world anymore. It's going to completely take your attention away, is what I mean to say. Like, for example, like when something, like when COVID hit, or like I guess 9/11 wasn't really my era. I'm a 99 baby, so I mean I don't really know much about like how the situation was after 9/11 and stuff. But like those are moments where like you're sucked out of like reality, you're just sucked, like your whole life just takes a pause basically, and everyone's focused on this one thing. So that's what it's like. The Ghashiyah is gonna come. Your whole life, like what you're so involved in on a day-to-day basis that you don't think about anything else. That's literally gonna just go on pause, like which is like something that happens like once in a lifetime, right? Or twice in a lifetime for those old heads. They just it just everything goes on pause, and now you're gonna just be focused on the ahwal. تغشى الخلائق بأحوالها is what it says in Jalalain. Okay, now what was I? Okay, one last thing about this ayah. Why a question? Wait, I just said that. Oh, I guess it's like another way to look at it. Why it's a question is because that this is tasdiq al-amr, which is what we already said actually. But another benefit of tasdiq al-amr is affirming that the addressee did its job, and that really, the whole thing about how it's turned away from the kuffar, and this whole هل أتاك حديث الغاشية is saying that hasn't the news of the overwhelming event of the Day of Judgment, hasn't that come to you? Of course, it came to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He believes in it, of course. It's not like there's any doubt about that. Rather, in reality, it's saying that, oh, you disbelievers, you guys still haven't even you don't believe in this yet. We gave you so many dala'il, we gave you so many proofs. We've talked to you about this so much, and you guys still aren't listening. So in reality, this ayah is addressed to the disbelievers. That they like, why haven't you guys started to believe in this thing that's going to happen to you in the near future? So it's tasdiq al-amr, is affirming the like that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has done his job properly, like the coach in the example that I was giving previously. The second thing is that it's for tashweeq. So you just write this term down. Tashweeq listima' al-khadr. So tashweeq, it means like it's a way to gain interest. It's like a rhetorical device to like gain interest for the audience to be interested in what you're saying. هل أتاك حديث الغاشية? It's like a balagha point. It just it's like attention grabber pretty much. I think that's what we would say in like English. An attention grabber. Okay. Ayah number 2. وجوه يومئذ خاشعة. Wujuh, as we can see that there's no alif lam, as is usually the case with jumla ismiya. That is the mubtada's has the it's definite, whereas the khabar is going to be indefinite, right? Yeah, the mubtada should be ma'rifa. But over here we see that that's not the case. So the benefit of not having the alif lam is that the tanween signifies that it's not all. It's a group, some, or many, or however much. It's not all. Which makes sense because wujuhun yawma idin khashi'ah is talking about how faces on that day shall be have khushu'. They shall be like trembling. They shall be downcast. I believe is the way that we describe. When this word khashi'ah came in Surat al-Nazi'at, we said downcast. That the faces shall be there, like they should just be looking downwards on that day. So when you say that one group, their faces are going to be looking downwards, well, that just automatically you assume that, okay, is there another group? Like, why are you saying one group? Okay, so I guess maybe there is another group, which of course is going to be coming up later. Those faces will be radiant and pleased. Okay, so وجوه يومئذ يومئذ is تقديم ما حقه تأخير يفيد الحصر يفيد الاختصاص. وجوه يومئذ, on that day they shall especially be downcast. عاملة ناصبة. Okay, this is kind of confusing. And I hope I could. Am I even done with? Okay, actually, let's talk a little bit more about khashi'ah real quick. So khushu' is a pair. Yes, Abdullah, go ahead.
Sorry, Muslim, I didn't catch. How do we know that there are two groups? What signifies that there's two separate groups?
The fact that it's not alif lam. Wujuhun, the tanween, so tanween, usually when we learn in Nahu, it's like the first thing that we learn is that when you say rajulu, ar-rajulu, the man, rajulun, a man, and that's it. That's like all we learn about like alif lam and tanween. But alif lam can have a whole multitude of meanings. Could be lil ahad, lil jins, and lil istighraq, and all these different things that comes into play when we, inshallah. We forgot to do Surat al-Fatiha. That probably would have been a good place to do. We probably should have done Surah al-Fatiha before we did Surah Naba. Maybe at the end we could just come back to it. So Alif Lam can have a multitude of meanings. It doesn't, right? It doesn't just have to be the man. I mean, in that case it would be, but like in other situations. And similarly, wujuhun, it's not just going to be or like rajulun. Like it doesn't have to just be a man. It could okay, maybe like again, rajulun, it'll be a man, but like tanween could also have a multitude of different purposes and the reason why it's being brought. So like for example, alhamdu, we say is it could be either for istighraq or it could be for jins. That alhamdu, all praises, every single individual praises are lillah, or only solely for Allah Ta'ala. Whereas lil istighraq, all is talking about all the different individual praises are for Allah Ta'ala. Whereas if you say lil jins, it's saying praise itself is lillah, it is for Allah Ta'ala. Okay, so that's fun.
In that situation, it's istighraq.
No, I mean that's the whole like debate amongst mufassirun what and what.
We can go both ways in that scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Sorry,
no problem. Whereas again, and then on the that's for like some examples for alif lam. Whereas for tanween, you could have different like we could have tanween for tankir, like we say like an indefiniteness. That's the main thing that usually comes up to what we learn, and then we just end up sticking with that. But if you look in some of the Nahu books, you could find that like over here in this case, it's going to be for takthir, or it's going to come on later that fiha aynun jariyah, that it's not, Allah Ta'ala doesn't say for the people of Jannah fiha al-aynul jariyah, that it's going to have that one waterfall that's going to be absolutely amazing. Allah Ta'ala says fiha aynun jariyah. So aynun is actually referring to a multiplicity of springs and rivers and waterfalls that are going to be in Jannah for each person. They're going to have each individual is going to have multiple different uyun that are going to be flowing. So like again maybe I could try to come up with a little list with examples on what exactly is the purpose or what could be some of the different benefits of having the tanween as opposed to making something ma'arifa. So wujuhun yawma idhin khashi'ah. Okay, khashi'ah, I was describing that. So khashi'ah is that it's like a paralyzing fear. something that like it doesn't just start from the heart, rather like it affects your entire body. Like something that causes you to. It's not just an inward state; it'll become apparent as well, become outward as well. And interestingly, when we look at the this word of khashi'ah, khushu' being used for the kuffar, Allah Ta'ala says, khashi'atun absaruhum tarhaquhum dhillah. Surah Al-Qalam, I think. خاشعة وقد كانوا يدعون إلى السجود وهم سالمون. Yeah, I think that's Surah Al-Qalam. And then وخشعت الأصوات, that their voices are going to tremble. So we notice that Allah Ta'ala does not, when he ascribes khushu' to the disbeliever, it's always towards a limb. It's always for like a body part. Whereas, how does Allah Ta'ala describe a believer? What is the first, like what limb, what body part do we think of when we say khushu'? We think of the
Face.
Like you have khushu' in salah. Like what part are we talking about? Yes, exactly. The heart. The heart has khushu'. So now the belief, Allah Ta'ala also says, أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُم, that their hearts shall have this overwhelming fear and awe of Allah Ta'ala. So my point is that khushu' for any other limb than the heart, it's actually belittling that limb. So in essence, these people, these kuffar, they have such like a strong kufr, such a disbelief in Allah Ta'ala. They're so turned away from the what is correct. They're so turned away from Allah Ta'ala, is that it's not that their hearts are going to be feeling this khushu'. It's what is there? All these other different body parts are still going to be all these different body parts are going to be experiencing khushu', not because of out of actual, genuine, pure, praiseworthy fear of Allah Ta'ala, but because they're just scared by seeing this Ghashiyah that's coming down from above the sky, or because they're scared of their soul being taken out. But it's never proper khushu' that should be done in its rightful place. It's always due to something that they're still just so not focused on Allah Ta'ala. They're still just worried about themselves, that and they're only worried about like what's going to happen to them, that they start getting freaked out by all these different occurrences that Allah Ta'ala causes to happen. They still don't have this proper khushu' of Allah Ta'ala that is in their hearts, which separates the Muslim from the non-Muslim. وجوه يومئذ خاشعة عاملة ناصبة. Okay, so now we're still describing the wujuh. So wujuh يومئذ خاشعة وجوه يومئذ عاملة ناصبة. Okay, that the faces on that day shall be عاملة ناصبة. Ayah number 3, that there shall be laboring. Amila, you guys know what amal is, to working. Like they're like, you can see it in their faces. They're going to be like, you come back home from a long day of work, a long day of school. You could tell it. You could tell like straight up when you look at someone in their face, you could tell they had a long day. They had a difficult day. That's how these people will be on the day of judgment, or when they're resurrected. That you could just see it in their face, that they've been working so hard in this worldly life, that they've been just just putting in their 40-hour, 60-hour, 80-hour work weeks, even sometimes, and then they expect it to have like a nice reward and a nice pleasures after their, due to all their work that they've put in. But what does Allah Ta'ala say? Amilatun nasiba, that they're just so worked and so overtired. Tasla naran hamia, that they're not going to get any reward. The reward that they're going to get, the vacation that they're expecting after their amazing year that they put in at work, is that tasla naran hamia. Where are they going to end up? They're going to end up entering into the boiling fire. Amilatun nasiba, quite a bit to say. 53. Okay, one question. Would you guys prefer that we go like 40, 45 minutes, or is an hour okay? Hour is fine, or probably should have asked this like a couple weeks ago. You guys are good with an hour? Or? Okay, great. Cool. Second thing that I was going to ask was... Okay, I'll probably just end off here at this point. Maybe just mention a few other things just talk about these two ayahs that I just read, and then we could end it. Other thing that I just want to say before I forget was... And I forgot. Oh, okay. So because this is half bara mark, I think it'd be good to have like a little review session, maybe Friday, or probably not Friday because we still have to finish this surah. Maybe Friday, inshallah, we could finish this surah on Friday, and then maybe Monday we can have like a review session, and then I could prepare a little quiz test thingy that you guys can take on your own time. Whether that be, maybe it could be, it's not gonna be hard, more just like a study guide that you could also just kind of test yourself on with. So it's not gonna be really like a quiz, but more like a study guide that you could just read over and then try to fill in the blanks and whatnot. So inshallah, that should, hopefully I could think of something that helps you guys. Okay, so that's the two things. Okay, number 3 and 4. So their faces, وجوه يومئذ خاشعة عاملة ناصبة, are going to be overworked and they're going to be tired. Over here, I'm not sure where exactly this is coming from, but they both mention it, Sheikh Sabuni and Jalalain, is that the reason for this عاملة ناصبة is that قال المفسرون هذه الآية في الكفار يتعبون ويشقون بسبب جر السلاسل والأغلال وخوضهم في النار وخوض الإبل في الوحل. Okay, basically it's saying that the reason that they have this amilatun nasiba, that they have this like overworked expression on their face, is because of, and he says amilatun nasiba that the nasbin wa ta'ibin bis salasil wal aghlal is due to the chains and the hooks of the fire of Jahannam that's just been dragging them. And they're just like, you could tell by their faces, like they're 100%, they can't take it anymore, and they're just like done with it. Not that they're just like stoic in the face, but rather that it's like you could tell that they can't take any more of this punishment. Where is that? Where is this coming from? I'm not sure. Oh, actually, بالسلاسل والأغلال أي يجر السلاسل والأغلال الثقيلة كما صرح به غيره. I think this is probably just one of those things that the mufassirun, that it may probably most likely comes from like a tafsir of a sahabi or a tabi'i, and therefore the mufassirun adopted it and it's become like the standard code. So unfortunately, it's because of my lack of ittila and my lack of reading in tafsir that I'm just so confused as to where this is coming from. But he says that كما صرح به غيره is because other scholars have clearly expressed that this is what the ayah is talking about. So most likely this is going back to like a hadith or a tafsir of either Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam himself or Sahabi Tabi'i, and that's why it's like the adopted majority opinion. Ma'arif al-Quran. Let's just read that real quick, and then we could almost end it. It's like just 2-3 short stories, inshallah. Amilatun Nasi. Okay, this is interesting. But on the day of judgment, there will be two separate groups of people, believers and unbelievers, and their faces will be different. This verse describes the faces of the unbelievers. They will be downcast. The word khashi'a from the root word khushu' means to humble, humiliate, cast down. This is the meaning of casting oneself down before Allah Ta'ala in prayer. People who do not cast themselves down before Allah Ta'ala in this world, their faces on the day of judgment will be downcast with humiliation and disgrace. The other conditions of the unbelievers are amilatun nasiba. So, وجوه يومئذ خاشعة, وجوه يومئذ عاملة ناصبة. That عاملة means that they've worked really hard. عامل or عاملة in Arabic is used for a person who continuously works so as to become completely tired. The word nasiba is derived from nasab. This word also refers to one who toils unceasingly so as to become completely exhausted. It seems that the latter two words of the unbelievers relate to this world, which is contrary to what I just read from the Jalalain and Sabuni, because they're saying that it's referring to the hereafter, that it's going to be the salasim and the aghlal, the chains and the hooks of the fire, Jahannam and Jahannam on the day of judgment, that's just going to be like dragging them, is going to cause this amilatun nasba. So I guess maybe it is also another legitimate opinion that is referring to like them being raised up with this tired, really overworked looks on their faces because of the work that they put in for like their dunya on the day of judgment. Let me rephrase that. They're going to be completely looking tired because of all the work that they put in the dunya for the dunya, and when they're resurrected on the day of judgment, they're going to see that first they're still going to have that overlooked, tired looking faces, and it's not like any of that stuff that they did in their worldly life is going to help them on the day of judgment. So it seems that the latter two conditions of the unbelievers relate to this world, because hereafter is not a realm in which one has to work to become so tired and exhausted. Therefore, Qutubi and other commentators are of the view that the humbleness of their faces relates to the hereafter, meaning وجوه يومئذ خاشعة, they're relating to the hereafter. Whereas عاملة ناصبة, they're working hard and becoming exhausted, refers to their work in this world. Okay, great. And let me just finish reading this and I can mention this. Given that I can't snap, so I don't know what that was. Given this interpretation, the sense is that many unbelievers exert themselves in their false. Okay, exactly. Given this, so we're talking about Aminat and Nasiba, their overworking of themselves is referring to these disbelievers. Given this interpretation, the sense is that many unbelievers exert themselves in their false rituals and work hard in their presumed act of worships in the world. As for the Hindu yogis and the Christian monks do, they endure many difficulties in the devotional acts of worship sincerely in order to seek the good pleasure of Allah Ta'ala, but being on wrong and idolatrous ways. They are not acceptable to or rewarded by Allah Ta'ala. Thus, their faces shown of exhaustion in the world, and in the hereafter, their faces will be disgraced and humiliated. Great, yeah, and then this was what I wanted to mention right now with the thing I snapped at, or tried to snap at. Sayyidina Hassan al-Basri, rahimahullah, he mentions a narration that when Umar bin Khattab, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when he went to Syria, a Christian monk, لما قدم الشام أتاه راهب شيخ كبير عليه السواد فلما رآه عمر بكى. That there was this Christian monk who was like, we're talking about like, one of those samurai looking dudes, really, really old, big old beard, super wrinkly, frail, and super, all back all messed up. That's who Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu saw, and he began to cry. I'll end off with this, inshallah. فَقِيلَ لَهُ يَا Umar, they asked him, مَا يُبْكِيكَ يَا أَمِيرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِنَّهُ نَصْرَانِي. Why are you crying at this Christian guy? Like, you're going to cry, I get it, you're going to cry about like a Muslim, and like maybe he's like, for whatever reason you can cry at, but you're crying at a non-Muslim guy, you're crying at a Christian dude. فقال ذكرت قول الله تعالى قول الله عز وجل عاملة ناصبة تصلى نارا حامية فبكيت رحمة عليه. That Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he saw this overworked guy, this guy who was literally putting his whole life into false worship, and he remembered this ayah, عاملة ناصبة تصلى نارا حامية. So he began to cry as if like he just felt sorry for this guy. I pity the condition of this old man. This poor soul worked so hard and showed such readiness to lay down his life to achieve a particular purpose, that is to gain the pleasure of Allah, but alas, he could not achieve it. Okay, well, enough here. Inshallah, we could talk more about what Hamia is exactly, Tasla, Narun Hamia, and some other details regarding. I'm going to try to finish off the surah next time, inshallah. We ask that Allah Ta'ala save us from all these different punishments that He is describing, that He allows us to not have. وُجُوهٍ يَوْمَئِذٍ خَاشِعَةٌ عَامِلَةٌ نَاصِبَةٌ. Rather, we ask that we be part of وُجُوهٍ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاعِمَةٌ لِسَعْيِهَا رَاضِيَةٌ. Ameen. سبحان الله بحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them now. If not, assalamu alaikum.
Is it only referring to like non-believers and the kuffar, or is it also could it also be applied to Muslims?
That's a good question, considering that, like, we know that not all Muslims are going to enter into Jannah first, that some of them may go into the Jahannam. So, and it's possible that even I'll just double check, but it seems like, maybe that some of the descriptions of the torment of the Day of Judgment, it's possible that it could refer to those Muslims too who are first going to enter into Jahannam, then they enter into Jannah. As we know that there is, like in the hadith, that there is instances in which a person, although he's a Muslim, Allah Ta'ala will still do the man nuqisha udhiba, right? That Allah Ta'ala will still, like, He's going to ask him about every single good deed, bad deed that he did. He's going to ask him about, did you do, like, he'll be what's that? He'll be audited. Like all these different things that usually happen with the kuffar, there is narrations about that happening to Muslims. So it is possible that these sifat could be for disbelievers who are going to enter Jahannam first and then enter the Jannah. I'll just double check on that though. Inshallah. Any other questions? Okay, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Sorry for going over time.